There's a conversation happening in the background, in a back room that you are not a part of and that you will probably never know about. And no one's willing to say it out loud. Not because it's crazy, but because once you see the incentives, it becomes very hard to unsee. The United States is sitting on a debt load that has entered the absolute danger zone. As of February 2026, gross US national debt is about $38.5 trillion. It's not a headline number anymore. That's a structural condition. And when a country reaches that level of debt, starts to run into a problem that is not political, it's mathematical. Debt grows, interest costs compound, and eventually you either need growth, austerity, inflation, or some kind of balance sheet maneuver that changes the entire game. Now, here's the part that most people don't understand. The US already has a balance sheet lever sitting in plain sight: gold. The United States holds the largest gold stockpile on planet Earth, about 8,133 metric tons. That's roughly 261.5 million ounces. And here's the detail that makes this feel like a movie. Officially, on US government books, that gold is not valued anywhere close to the market value. It's valued at a statutory price set by law, about $42.22 per ounce. It's not a typo. Fort Knox itself could be worth hundreds of billions to over $1 trillion at market prices, and yet it's carried on the books at roughly $11 billion. So let's do the simple Barney math. 261.5 million ounces times 42. It's 11 billion. And at the market prices we're sitting at right now, it's about $1.3 trillion. So when people ask how a country manages a debt load in the high 30 trillions, you have to at least acknowledge this. There's a mechanism right in the open that could radically change the optics of the US balance sheet overnight, and it has a name. It is called gold revaluation. Now, I want to be very careful here. I'm not telling you this is going to be official policy. I'm not telling you there's a press release coming. In fact, Treasury officials have publicly said they are not planning to revalue gold. But the idea exists for a reason, because it's the kind of idea that shows up when debt becomes too big to ignore. And here's the bigger point. Gold has a much easier path higher. Why? Because gold going up doesn't break the real economy. It actually supports it. Central banks hold gold as a strategic reserve asset. They don't hold it because it has industrial utility. They hold it because it is the one asset with zero counterparty risk. It's not someone else's liability, and central banks have been acting accordingly. 2022 through 2024, and even continuing into 25 and 26. Central banks collectively bought over 1,000 tons of gold per year. In 2025, they still bought a historically massive amount, about 863 tons. Even with record prices, even with the volatility, that tells you it's not retail hype, it's institutional behavior, it's strategic behavior. Even China's central bank has been steadily adding gold again, and Chinese investors have shifted heavily towards bars and coins over jewelry as a form of monetary protection. So, when gold rises, what happens? Central banks look smarter. Sovereign reserves strengthen, confidence increases, and a debt-heavy system, gold rising can serve as a pressure release valve. Now, compare that to silver. Silver is where the story changes. Silver is not just a monetary metal. Silver is an industrial input. It's a key material in solar electronics, advanced circuitry, and critical infrastructure. It shows up in electric vehicles, grid components, in military systems. And when silver prices rise aggressively, it doesn't just create wealth for investors, it inflates costs for entire sectors. It crushes margins, it forces subsidies higher, it forces procurement budgets higher, and it forces deficits higher, as well as your taxes. And that's why silver is dangerous. If gold goes up, central banks cheer. If silver goes up too much, governments have a huge problem because they have to pay for it. Now bring China into this. China dominates solar manufacturing, and solar panels require silver. A typical panel uses roughly 15 to 20 grams of silver, around half an ounce. If silver rises $25 per ounce, that's roughly $12.50 more silver cost per panel. Scale that into hundreds of millions of panels, and you're talking billions of dollars of added input costs. China, the US, Europe, Japan, most of the civilized world all have the same issue. They consume silver. They don't mine enough silver. They have to import it. So they have a structural incentive for silver to stay affordable, because expensive silver is not bullish, it's inflationary. It's a tax on industrial expansion, and it's a tax on defense. Now, layer in the physical reality, silver inventories, they've been tightening. Shanghai's exchange inventories dropped to roughly decade-low levels. London has experienced periods of stress and even backwardation. Reuters reported London lease rates around the low double digits during the 2025 squeeze, which is extraordinary in normal market conditions. So the physical constraint, it's real. But here's where the naive narrative breaks. People think shortage automatically equals higher prices. Not necessarily. Not when the metal is strategically critical. Not when the buyers are entire governments and industrial systems focused on profit. Because when something becomes critical, price discovery becomes political. And that doesn't mean there's a smoke-filled room where people decide prices. It means incentive structures create pressure. Pressure to subsidize supply. Pressure to release inventory. Pressure to encourage substitution. Pressure to use paper markets to damp volatility. And pressure to manage the public narrative, because it's one thing for gold to run, but it's another thing for silver to run. Now, here's the part that makes this feel conspiratorial, but it's still grounded in fact. When silver was surging, a Chinese trader built a massive short position in silver futures, 450 metric tons worth, roughly 14.5 million ounces. And at the same time, he was long on gold. That's a spread. Gold up, silver down, or capped. And the reason that trade makes sense isn't magic, it's incentives. Gold can rise and strengthen sovereign balance sheets. Silver rising too far threatens industrial margins and national budgets and economies. Now bring it back to the United States and the debt. At $38.5 trillion in debt, the US has limited room for major cost inflation in strategic sectors like this. Defense spending, it's already enormous. Clean energy transitions require huge capex. EVs require subsidies and infrastructure. If solar costs surge inside those pipelines, government spending pressures rise again. More deficits, more debt, more interest. So if you wanted to design the most politically acceptable outcome for a debt-heavy world, it would look something like this. Gold rises because it strengthens reserves and serves as a monetary confidence. Silver stays controlled because it keeps industrial and defense costs manageable. And if gold rises enough, the pressure to revalue gold on balance sheets grows, even if nobody calls it that. Because the higher gold is, the more valuable that reserve becomes relative to debt optics, and the more attractive gold becomes as a stabilizing asset in a world where trust is thinning. So here's the conclusion. Gold has the easy path. It's held by central banks. It's treated as a strategic reserve. It can rise without blowing up industrial budgets and economies. Silver has the hard path, because if silver rises too much, it becomes a direct cost shock to clean energy, electronics, and defense to the major countries of the world. And in a world drowning in debt, cost shocks are not tolerated for very long. So when you look back at 2026, don't just ask which metal has a deficit. Ask which metal the system can afford to let run. And if you want to know what's going on in those rooms, click the first link in the description. I will send you a video that tells you all of that. But obviously, I can't say it on this platform, and I promise you, if you click that link and watch that, it'll open your eyes, and you'll be glad that you did.